Hey, Osyka Youth Group. Brother Reed here, coming to you live. Not live. I'm recording this and then I'll post it. But this evening, like I say, because of the coronavirus, we're kind of on hold with church events, which that's a wise decision because there has been a church. I don't remember exactly where it was, but it was on the news that decided to meet anyway. And a lot of them have been sick from the coronavirus, and one of them actually even died from that. So thankful for our church leaders that have decided to postpone these things as hard as it is and wait till all this clears up. But this evening, like I say, we usually are on, well, lately we've been Wednesday nights getting ready for puppet skits and stuff, but we can't do that. So this evening, I just want to share something that's been on my mind since my last post about Paul, and what I want to focus on is the word integrity. Integrity. Some of you know what that means, but the definition of integrity is the practice of being honest and showing a consistent and uncompromising adherence to strong moral and ethical principles and values. In ethics, integrity is regarded as the honesty and truthfulness or accuracy of one's actions. And thinking about Paul, Paul we talked about a few weeks ago, and then I even mentioned it Sunday night, where Acts 11:13, after someone says they had a vision, the prophet or whatever, said they had a vision of Paul being bound in Jerusalem. Paul's answer was, and this is what it says in Acts 21:13, what are you doing, weeping and breaking my heart? For I'm ready not only to be bound, but even to die in Jerusalem for the name of our Lord Jesus. And we talked about that quite a bit that night. Why would Paul say that they were breaking his heart? And we talked about, that Paul had this hunger and passion for serving Christ, and he was willing to go anywhere and do anything for Christ. But the people wasn't. His followers at the time were trying to talk him out of doing what Christ had called him to do. And it was breaking his heart because he thought these people had the same passion as he did, and they didn't. So we know that Paul said this. He says that I'm willing to be not only to be bound, but even to die at Jerusalem for the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Now, what I want to talk about is Paul's integrity. It's one thing to say, "Oh, I would die for Christ," or "I'll do anything for Christ," or "I'll do this," all this kind of stuff out of our mouths. The other thing is putting our feet in action, actually going through with this, being bold as Paul said it was going to be. And we found out in Acts 24 that he was. Not only did he go to Jerusalem, but he was arrested, he was put in prison. All these things happened to Paul, and it never changed his idea of following Christ. He was still bold, he was still willing to share, as we talked about on Sunday night in Acts 24. But I want to go even further than that. Integrity. And the last sentence of integrity, it says, in ethics, integrity is regarded as the honesty and truthfulness or accuracy of one's actions. See, Paul said what he meant, and he meant what he said, but he actually did what he said he was going to do. He never swayed in the face of persecution, in the face of being beaten, in the face of being imprisoned, even in the face of death. He still stood on that he would do. He was willing to not only be beaten for Christ's sake, but even to die for Christ's sake. You put him in a corner and he said the same thing. Put him in front of one person, he said the same thing. Put him in front of the religious leaders, he said the same thing. In front of Festus and the others, he said the same thing. Paul had integrity. strong case of integrity. Was a lot of times lacking today. We'll say, "Oh yeah, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that," and when it starts to get hard to do those things, then we start backing up. Now, maybe you're thinking, "Well, wait a minute. What about Paul's issues?" You know, Paul had an issue, and it's mentioned in Romans 7:15. It says, "For what I am doing, I do not understand. For I'm not practicing what I would like to do, but I'm doing the very thing I hate." Paul wasn't perfect, right? Paul had sin. But integrity is what? Practicing or being the practice. Integrity is the practice of being honest and showing a consistent and uncompromising adherence to strong moral and ethical principles and values. Integrity is regarded as the honesty and truthfulness or accuracy of one's actions. See, Paul did have sin. He wasn't perfect. Nobody was perfect. Nobody, except for Jesus Christ. So, because of that, because of Paul's integrity, he was honest. And in Romans, he says, "Look, man, I'm doing something I don't even understand why I'm doing it. For I'm not practicing what I like to do. I would like to be faithful to Christ. I would like to be as faithful as Jesus was himself, as pure as he was. But I'm not." He says, "For I'm not practicing what I'd like to do. I'd like to be more bold. I would like to be more faithful." I don't think he could be more bold, but I would like to be less of a sinner. I would like to, for the things that are causing me to stray, I would like those things not to affect me anymore. But he says, "But I'm doing the very thing I hate." And that's still integrity, guys. His integrity meant that he would do what he says, but then if he didn't, he wasn't hiding. He would come out plain and simple. "Look, I still have sin. I still have sin." And he was willing to confess to that. Integrity, guys. Integrity. Look, we don't want to go around bragging about our sin, guys. Don't get me wrong here. Sin is something that we should be ashamed of. But if we're caught, if someone finds out, we need to own up to it. And that's serious. Integrity is a serious thing. You can get a name for yourself of being honest and all that. But the moment you lie to someone, then that's all down the drain. You have to start all over, because you're not an honest person. Your integrity is not something that can be counted on. You can't be dependable for telling the truth. A little stretch of the truth is still a lie. That little saying that we call, "Oh well, it's just a little white lie." No, it's not a little white lie. It's black sin. A lie is a lie, no matter how big or how small it is. So when we look at Paul, he had integrity. He had integrity by his actions and by his honesty. A lot of integrity. Guys, when we talk Sunday night, and this is going to be a short message, when we talk Sunday night, you'll find out, and if you want to read ahead, Acts 25, we see Paul showing even more integrity, more boldness, because in Acts 25:11 it says, "If then," because he's being accused of all this stuff. Remember now, he's being accused of being, as it said in 24, I think it was, or 23, they were saying he was a pest. They didn't like what he said, didn't like what he had to say. But in 25:11 it says, "If then I am a wrongdoer and have committed anything worthy of death, I do not refuse to die. But if none of those things is true of which these men accuse me, no one can hand me over to them." That's integrity. He says, "Man, if I've done something wrong, if I've really done this, I'm willing to own up, and I'm willing to suffer the consequences. But if I hadn't, you better let me go. And you better get these guys that have been accusing me of and lying about me. Guys, that's integrity. True integrity. Hey, find out I'm doing something wrong, I'm willing to suffer the consequences. If I said something that's wrong, I'm willing to suffer the consequences. If I did something that was wrong, I'm willing to suffer the consequences, even to die, he says. I do not. If what I've done is worthy of death, I'm willing to die. But if I haven't done that, then you need to leave me alone. And that's pretty much what Paul was saying. Guys, as youth and as teenagers, guys, I want to challenge you to be someone of integrity. Guys, if you're doing the right thing, stand on it. But if you do something wrong, own up to it. Confess. Don't lie. Lies won't get you nothing. We've talked about lying before, that if you lie to one person and you tell this story to somebody, and then you go and tell the same story, but because it was a lie, you mess up on the details. And then you tell 4 or 5 people, and then what happens? Maybe 4 or 5, 2 or 3 of those people, or all 4 or 5 get together one day, and it was like, oh yeah, remember so and so? It was telling this story about whatever, and it was like, yeah, he said this or she said this, and it was like, well, that's not what they told me. And look, guys, little small details of a story is one thing. When we're talking about total contradiction, total lie, and even the little ones. Don't get me wrong now. I just said a while ago the little white lies. But maybe you tell the story and you leave out a part by accident. Maybe you tell somebody else the story and you get everything involved. Okay? I don't mean lying. That's not lying. If it happened, it happened. That's the truth. And if you're asked about it, well, you say, well, yeah, I forgot to tell you that part. That's the truth. And if someone was to come along that actually witnessed your story that you're telling all these other people, they could vouch for you. They could say, oh yeah, that's exactly what happened. Maybe they must have forgot about that part. Guys, that's still the truth. But when you tell a story to one person and then you tell somebody else something, and you have a witness that says, no, that ain't the way it went, then you've lost all respect of those other people. They thought they could trust you. They thought you had integrity. Guys, that's what I'm talking about this evening. That's what Paul had. If he talked to one person, he told them about Christ. If he talked to 100 people, he told them about Christ. And it didn't matter if he was in the face of death, he still talked about Christ. He still said what was on his heart. But yet, he still had the integrity to say, I'm not perfect, as he did in Romans 7:15. Integrity doesn't mean you're perfect, guys. Don't misunderstand this message. Integrity does not mean you're perfect, because if that's the case, this word wouldn't even exist, because nobody's perfect. Nobody has ever been perfect except Jesus Christ himself. We wouldn't even have this word unless integrity would be the definition of integrity would be Jesus Christ, if it meant perfection. That's not what it means. It means being as honest as you can, not just verbally, but physically. That's what integrity means. Paul had it. We have it too, guys. It's just if we decide to use it, if we decide to be bold in our integrity, if we decide to truly have integrity. It really boils down to, and I may have, you may have babbled here a little bit, but integrity boils down to either you have it or you don't. Pure and simple. So guys, I want to encourage you guys. I hope this is not a beating you down. That's not what it's meant to be. It's to call you out. I've been thinking about this, and I've been thinking about myself, guys. Some people say, "Oh yeah, I have customers that the way they talk about me makes me proud. That what they see, they look at me as having integrity." But guys, I'm gonna be like Paul. I'm not perfect. So guys, I challenge you, I encourage you to be as faithful and truthful as you can be. The truth hurts, but the lie hurts more. The lie hurts more. It will hurt more people. It will hurt your testimony. It will hurt everything. Just be truthful. Be honest. Be faithful. And have integrity. All right, guys. See you when I see you physically. I love you all, and praying for each and every one of you. Hope everybody has a safe time away from school. Be on your best behavior at home, and don't run your parents. Don't drive them nuts. So, guys, thanks for listening, and we'll see you when you see you. See you when we see you.